Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Beneath Your Skin. This is Gaia, officially crazy now. Nothing else to say about that. Hello, my dear. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Zoe here. I've got nothing to say about the real world. I think I've left it far behind, and I'm quite happy in my mad world of horror movies and anime.
Can I live there with you, my dear?
Yeah, it's good here. Nice adventures, attractive boys, occasionally a demonic possession. But apart from that, it's a good world.
Yeah, perfect. I will pack and join you as soon as we finish this episode. Today, we are going to talk about the Swedish movie called Wither. It was an odyssey for me to find this movie because the first time I tried to download it, I found the Swedish version, and I don't speak Swedish. So a friend of mine tried to send me another link. It was Swedish version with Czech subtitles. At the end, I found it on YouTube in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't really speak Spanish, but because I speak Italian, of course, and I speak Latin, I was able to understand most of the movie. So yeah, that was the beginning of this adventure.
Oh, wow. That's quite an epic task. I mean, mine was just on Amazon Prime in Swedish with English subtitles. I'm like, cool, easy.
Nope, Prime here refused to show me the movie, so I had to look for another way. And my way was to finally find one copy in Spanish. I don't think this movie really went around a lot because if you can only find the original version with subtitles, it means that it wasn't a huge success. And I can understand why. A kind of movie that stays in the middle, in between. It wasn't all bad, it wasn't all good. It was a mix of too many genres, in truth, because it starts like demonic possession, then it turns into body horror and zombie movie. And yeah, it was a little bit too confused for my liking.
The first thing we need to address, the elephant in the room, is the fact that this film is The Evil Dead. It's exactly the same plot, exactly the same story and plot points and journey and ending. Yeah, it was just The Evil Dead. I will give it points though, because those practical effects were gorgeous. I liked the practical effects, and I give it like kudos for being an 18 rated film. So I loved how much blood and gore and close-ups of people being shot through the head. The problem though is while The Evil Dead, like the original trilogy, kind of starts off serious, but there's an element of like hokiness and there's a sense of humour to it. So that sometimes like some of the redonkulousness of the premise is treated with a bit of humour, and then it starts going into kind of like more humour by the end of it. This one took itself seriously. So it was just like, haha, you've shot a zombie in the head and it's got back up again. Take this seriously. And I was a bit like, yeah. No, because you're looking a little bit funny and you're trying to be the Evil Dead. And I've also seen the remake, the 2018 remake of The Evil Dead, which switches it up and makes Ash a woman in it. And it's very violent. But actually, it's not bad. It's better than this. And it's like, it goes full in for like the horror, and it goes full in with the gore, which I think is what this film wanted to do. But the problem is, the people in this film couldn't really act. And it was just like, oh, your practical effects, your bloods, your bullet wounds, even when the demon finally crawls out of the basement, looks good. And I was like, the practical effects in this are so good. Like when they chewed off the lip and the blood and the eye makeup, such good body horror. But people couldn't really act. You could tell that they were all models put into this movie because everyone was gorgeous. But they were models trying to act, and they couldn't pull off any gravitas. So you couldn't get scared. And if you can't act and you're trying to, they should have gone down the horror comedy route, because then the bad acting wouldn't matter. At least with the Evil Dead remake, they could act, and there was this build and tension and suspense. This was just them running around the house going, ah! And I was like, oh no, this is spoiling the vibe. And I hated the couple. I think because I'm not really into public displays of affection. And I was like, stop kissing in front of people. Don't kiss in front of your parents. Stop kissing at the restaurant. Don't just kiss. No, she's on the floor having fallen through a hole. Don't kiss. Stop kissing each other and deal with the problems. I hate it. You're gross. I hate you. You're gross. But that might just be me because I don't like all that lovey-dovey shit. But especially don't love it when it's like all the time for every occasion, even when they've fallen through like the ceiling or a demon's trying to eat them. Or when they are a demon. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah. And the point is, they don't even try, because it was clear it was more important to them to still be pretty than to give us any emotions, any sensations of doom and fear and terror. And those were the things we needed in this movie. And so they ran around the house screaming, but being careful to be pretty. At every scene, in every moment, I expected the moment for one of them to look straight into the camera. Because I knew it was going to happen at some point, because they really can't act, like you said. And the only very good thing of this movie were the opening credits.
Ooh, yes.
They tell us the story of what's going on. So, since the beginning of times, because we see people dressed in different clothes, indicating different ages, and we see families staying in the cabin, and we know something terrible is happening, because under the cabin there is this terrible creature screaming and being a monster. So we don't know if it's a demon or a witch, but we know it's evil. So we know something is there, and those families are doomed to be destroyed. So there is something that always there since the beginning of time until now is still there. And so you have to wonder, why the hell no one ever did anything to try to eradicate this evil? Let's be honest, in history, people died for much less. Whole villages were burned down just at the first rumor of witchcraft or anything related to demons and evilness and supernatural things in general. So why the hell no one ever thought about exorcising the whole forest, or burning the whole forest down, or trying to do something, just for a change?
It's silly. The thing is, the opening credits were gorgeous, because I like art, and I like even like sketchy art, but I liked how, as the credits and time moved, the art style was changing. So you got traditional like depictions of like women and demons and stuff, and then the art style got more modern, and there was like and so it was like nicer drawn and stuff, and then it was like the sketchiness and it's like, oh, this is really interesting, and it made it look like someone had been keeping a record of the, even if it was just an urban mythology, what's it called, urban legend, even if it was an urban legend, there seems to be a pictorial record, and many people seem to have drawn what they've seen in the woods. And the one thing that did annoy me is it looked like a lot of the time like this creepy ass little girl with this long hair hiding behind trees. At no point in this movie did we see a creepy little girl hiding behind trees. So I was like, where is the little creepy girl from the opening? And then as it goes on, and then you finally get the face of someone looking absolutely mad with fear, and I was like, oh, that's a nice image. And the film never lived up to the opening credits. And it also just left out the creepy girl with the long hair that was hiding in all those pictures. And it also in it showed that one of the ways they got rid of the demons or they got rid of a possessed bunch of people is there was a load of people on a bonfire being burned. So when the guy who lost his, the opening sequence was a father, turns out shooting his wife and kid because they've been turned into these weird, possessed zombie creatures. And he comes in and he talks about the urban legend and how there's like a race of like evil demons or creatures that are meant to live in the caves underneath the ground, and somehow they've come up and they've possessed people, and if you're scratched or bitten it will transfer the possession, and it's basically they're zombies basically. So he knows about the mythology, yet he still went there on a family trip. It's like, oh yeah, there's evil things that live underneath the ground, but I'm going to go fishing and leave my wife and child to wander around. Also, who finds a house in the middle of the woods unoccupied, walks in it and goes, do you know what would be a great idea? Opening a basement and going down to explore this abandoned cabin in the woods. I mean, yeah, maybe stupid high teenagers, but not a mother and her child. You'd be like, hey, like 10-year-old, do you know what'd be funny if we break into this house and go explore its basement? So I'm like, that's some bad parenting, mother. I hate plot holes like that. At least with the Evil Dead is they went to this cabin to have a party and they got high and then, shit hit the fan and they thought it'd be funny to read from a book. Cabin in the Woods style. This is like how you do Cabin in the Woods, like the non-meta way and the actual just diabolically awful way. So the mythology. The father turns up and tells them the mythology. And then they run around the house screaming and looking beautiful, including the guys. Like, I can't remember the name of him, the one that is just literally, I am a model. Yet clearly has anger issues because he kept punching women in the face. And I'm like, are we going to find out about his backstory? Like, because he punched the woman before he even knew. Then he whacks one out with a spade and buries her alive. And I'm like, dude, what are your issues? But we don't find out. And then I kept thinking, okay, this is the bit when they set the cabin on fire. This is the bit. Even when he didn't set it on fire. Like, there was the last thing you see in the credits is like all the bodies on fire, and then the picture of the guy's face looking at the flames going, ah. Then the other guy turns up and is like, the only way we can solve this is by burning them. And at the end of the movie, he just wanders off. No! Set the house on fire!
He's a model. He doesn't have the brain to connect the dots and actually do the only logical thing. What I really don't like in movies, except for the plot holes, I hate plot holes. It's when things don't add up and they are too convenient. So the cabin is abandoned for 5 years, but there is power. The cabin is abandoned for 5 years at least, but she finds a candle and the matches to light it up. And the matches work at the first try because humidity is not a thing, apparently. The place is abandoned for at least 5 years, but there is toilet paper. Okay, Australia and other countries in the world didn't have toilet papers during this pandemic, but you can find toilet paper in an abandoned cabin. How does it work exactly? So yeah, and then do we want to talk about the archetypes of characters in this movie? Okay, so we have the bad boy who has issues, very deep issues, who punches women in the face for, okay, he was right in that case, but it comes too naturally to him.
Yeah.
And then we have the bad girl, the goth one. And the first thing they do together, they fuck, because of course, no problem at all. Okay. And of course, the blonde, nice girl is paired with the good guy who is not only good looking, but is also a beloved son who respects his parents. We have another blonde, nice girl, and she, of course, is in love with the bad guy. But the bad guy is having an affair with a girl he just met, when it's obvious that the blonde girl and the bad guy know each other. And the bad guy's sister didn't want him to come because he wants to protect her friend from the bad guy. So we know there is history between them. We won't find out what that history is. Actually, we won't find out anything about anyone's background. So we have an old man who is obviously there to keep an eye on the evil cabin, telling you what to do because he has lost his whole family because of that cabin, and no one is listening to him, of course, because they are too young and too beautiful to listen. Yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah, it's just it's so silly because yeah, you're right. There's just so many little things that don't add up. So like, good boyfriend's dad finds him the cabin for the weekend and goes, "Oh yeah, you can go stay there." So what was it, on Airbnb? Was it like how did you find this magical cabin for them to go? And then they get there and it's locked. It's like, well, of course it's been locked. No one's going to leave it open for 5 years, but they don't have a key. Like, why would they not have a key? Like that's just dumb. It's like you don't go and stay somewhere and then it's like, did you not ask for a key? No. It's like, you're so pretty, but you be stupid because you didn't ask for the key to this cabin you're apparently staying in for the week. That annoyed me. That and the not setting fire to it.
Yeah, and the question is, if you don't have a key, does it mean that you are basically breaking and entering a private property you have no right on?
Yeah, definitely. So the
So,
dad finder going, oh, this has been abandoned. Why don't you go there? That sounds like the best idea ever. It's abandoned. No one will find us. No one will know we're there. It's like, well done, Dad. Let just make your children criminals. But yeah, so that was dumb. So they break in and like obviously like, and then they kept going on about Tove, who I think was the goth girl. It's the only name I remembered because they kept going, Tove needs this. Tove needs this. She's been going through a really hard time. But we don't find out what the hard time is. It's like, well, I assume because she's the goth girl and she's going through a hard time that it must be drugs because she takes drugs. And I think it's implied that, no, it's like there was no point for her taking drugs because she wasn't the one that was possessed. It was the nice girl that wandered down, not the nice girl, the short head, the bob head brunette. She was the one that originally gets possessed, bites off like goth girl's face. And yeah, I didn't like how easily the bad boy punched her. Like, I know, she's possessed and she's flying down the stairs going, I'm going to bite you. And that blonde girl's screaming, it's got blood on my face. You got like a speck of blood on your face. Your mate has had part of her face chewed off and ripped and is bleeding out on the sofa. But you're worried about the 3 drops that landed on your forehead. You narcissistic idiot. But it's like, he could have just like punched her because she's obviously grabbed it and stopped her. But it's like he punches her a couple of times and she falls on the floor and then he keeps beating on her when she's already down. I'm like, dude, too much. Then he goes and like, whacks the other girl with a spade and I'm like, it's just too much. It's too much. Like, it's, yeah. And I know for a film that has people eating each other, I'm upset about a guy punching someone too much. But he has issues. And I didn't like how easily he just started punching a woman's face in while she lay on the floor. Or that he buried someone alive. There was no backstory to these characters. I didn't understand why they were doing anything they were doing or why they wanted to go to this stupid weekend. And it's like, the creators of the film obviously have a lot of artistic talent when it comes to special effects makeup and some wonderfully like good like framing shots of like bullet wounds and the makeup and the blood and they obviously worked really hard on the mythology because there was a mythology. It was in the opening sequence. And then it's like they got a load of dumb models in and went improvise. And all they could do is like, hey, why don't we remake Evil Dead? But let's not make it as, modern and as interesting and as full as the remake. But we're not going to make it campy and fun like the original. We're just going to not act through it and just be, annoying. And I'm like, you've just got to admit that you remade The Evil Dead. The only thing that wasn't in it was the Book of the Dead. But we saw the Book of the Dead kind of in the opening credits when we saw the history of this evil presence.
I think they tried to simplify things. So instead of a book, they have someone telling us the story.
Oh, yes.
Because it's easier. It's easier. They are models. We suppose they don't know how to read. So they needed someone telling the story for them. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my conclusion.
Yeah.
That's my conclusion. And it's not a nice one. I know I am a bitch. I don't deny it.
Yeah.
But yes, this movie was made for dumb people by dumb people.
Yeah.
So they spoke the same language. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about this
No,
movie.
I think I've ripped it
No.
enough apart. Apart from it's worth it just for those special effects. They are so good. And it's really upsetting that they're wasted on this movie. Like the team that did the makeup and effects on this deserved better than whoever wrote the script and acted in it. So I hope the makeup team went on and did wonderful practical effects and some really good Swedish horror, because yeah, they deserve better than this movie.
As always, people, thank you for listening. If you want to join us, drop us a line on our Twitter account at beneath underscore your, or follow us on our Facebook page, Beneath Your Skin. We are on Pinecast, and you can listen to us on Spotify. For now, bye bye. See you later.
As always, Gaia, it's a pleasure. I always enjoy it when we can rip a film apart. I hope people enjoyed listening to me angrily rant about this movie, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, byes.